Hello, and welcome to the fourth webinar in our shift series, Resiliency and Pivoting Your Career. My name is Therese Coleman, and I am an Alumni Engagement Officer here at the University of Saskatchewan in the College of Arts and Science. I am joined by current Arts and Science student Maria Hanif, who is in her second year of Health Studies and assisting with the webinar today. Thanks for being here with us today, Maria. The University of Saskatchewan is located on Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis. We pay our respect to the First Nations ancestors and Métis ancestors of this place and reaffirm our relationship with one another. We would like to welcome all of you, our alumni, students, and friends from whatever treaty territory or land you are joining us from today. Although we are unable to gather in person, it is great to have this online opportunity to connect and to learn with you. For this webinar, our guests will have a 30-minute conversation that centers around failure, success, and resiliency. This will be followed by a 15-minute Q&A opportunity from our attendees. If you have a question you would like to ask, please enter it into the Q&A box at any time, and it will be addressed during the Q&A portion of the event. As you have likely seen, we will not be using the chat function today. For current students who attend 3 or more shift sessions, you will receive a co-curricular record credit, or a CCR. The CCR is a personalized and official record of the university-approved and facilitated activities that you have been involved in while a student here. We will also be giving out a USAS blanket as a door prize for today's session. We will be contacting the lucky winner by email later today. For those who attend all 5 shift sessions, you will be entered in to win a pair of Apple AirPods. We will be recording today's session. You'll be able to access the recording on the Arts and Science YouTube channel after the session. Our student moderator today is Bree Hipkin. Bree is entering her final year of studying environmental biology at the University of Saskatchewan. She is interested in ecology and conservation and is passionate about preserving the Northeast Whale. After graduation, she hopes to work with a conservation organization in Saskatchewan to protect the wetlands and other native habitat. Thank you for moderating our discussion today, Bree. And finally, without further ado, I am pleased to introduce our guest speaker today, alumna and friend of the College of Arts and Science, Dr. Moniques. Dr. Samaire holds a Bachelor of Science degree from the College of Arts and Science, as well as a PhD in pathology. She is the founder and owner of Maven Water and Environment. Monique was recently named a CUBC Future 40 winner and received a 2020 Alumni of Influence Award from the College of Arts and Science. Maven is Monique's second company, founded in 2019 after the successful sale of her first company, Contango Strategies, to a publicly traded company. Today, Monique and Bree will be discussing Monique's extensive experience in resiliency after pivoting out of a more traditional career path and twice starting a company from scratch. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and experience with us today, Monique. Now I will turn everything over to you. Thank you.
Thanks for the introduction.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today, Monique.
My pleasure.
All right. So you just opened a multi-million-dollar water treatment and testing facility in Saskatoon, which is really cool. Can you talk about things in your life that got you to where you are right now?
I like talking with people who think nerdy stuff is cool. That's very helpful to me. Nothing about my path was really what I expected it to be. I never thought I'd be here doing this now, but just always have been open to opportunities along the way. And a couple of years ago, when I realized the types of things I wanted to build and do, there was no facilities that existed to do that. The university, Innovation Place, none of them had these types of things that we needed. I started to figure out ways to do it. So we opened it up last year, and actually right now we're working on building out more office space and growing it continuously. So
yeah, that's awesome. So how did your USask education help get you to where you are?
Well, I'm actually a bit odd that I did all my degrees at the University of Saskatchewan. I know often you'll hear advice that you should switch schools or go to different universities, but I did my bachelor's, and then I started a master's and transferred to PhD. And then I also did a couple postdocs at U of S. And they were all in very different departments, which is beneficial. And my life situation at the time was that I wasn't going to leave Saskatoon. My husband at the time, now ex-husband, he had a business in town. I wasn't going to go across the world and stuff for another degree. So I finished it all up here. And I think it was actually really interesting to be able to go to the different departments and see how what I had learned in one department was applicable to another. And especially going through arts and science, there's such a range of different things. It's not as focused as, say, engineering or commerce. So there's such a range where I had friends like taking like, you know, art history, and there I was doing microbiology. And so you get to integrate with a lot of different people and ideas, which I thought was really pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something really valuable about arts and science. So what have you found is important for success post-graduation?
I don't think there's one single path to success. That's, you got to define it yourself, and don't just like measure yourself against somebody else's success. You have to also see, where are you at compared to the person you're comparing yourself to. And I've actually had this discussion recently with some people that I mentor, and you know, they kind of pointed out what I'm doing. I'm like, yeah, but you're 24. You don't know what I was doing when I was 24. I'm 38 now. This is different. You know, so you have to compare yourself to where you were a month ago or a year ago or 10 years ago, not compare yourself to where somebody else is at that, even that same time point in age. Because your goals are different, your paths are different, and you really got to find your own definition of success. For me, a big part of achieving what I feel is success is somebody, I was actually just in a webinar before this for Eco Canada. I won the Canadian Eco Impact Award for 2021. And one of the other winners for a different category was saying, you know, he had success in his career because he didn't wait for doors to be opened. He knocked on them, and if he had to, he knocked them down. And I think, you know, there's a saying that a quote I use a lot. I honestly don't know who it's attributed to. I've heard a few different people for it to be attributed to, but there's people who create change, people who wait for it to happen, and people who are surprised when it does. And I think I've seen, not just I think, I have seen this come out a lot during COVID, where people are really trending into their own category. And you can see the people that are forging ahead and creating things despite COVID, and they see it as an opportunity. In every sector, there are people that are actually just thriving right now and creating amazing things and growing their skills. And there are people who have used it as an opportunity to sit back and wait. So I think no matter what your definition of success is, take charge of it, lean into it, go after it, don't just wait.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really good advice. So what are some ways that you maybe struggled, and how did you kind of overcome those barriers?
You know, I think I struggle pretty much every day in some way or another. If you're not struggling, you're not growing. You know, if I don't have even some kind of struggle in a day, I kind of think like, did I even try? Like, did I push myself? So everyone's struggle is going to be different. You know, sometimes, like a couple of weeks ago, I literally had to go back and rethink. I couldn't remember Lewis dot chemistry stuff, and I needed it for something to calculate an electron demand. And I was like, guess I'm relearning high school chemistry today. And so that was a struggle. But then other days, the struggle is HR related, or the struggle is in prioritization, or, you know, handling 100 million moving pieces at once. So I kind of look at it like, don't view struggles as a negative, view it as proof that you're actually doing something.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say resilience means to you?
I've developed a weird definition of this myself. I've talked about resiliency a lot in the past, and it's interesting to me that through COVID, this has become a real key catch word. Some people would define resiliency as like an elastic band, the ability to return back to where you were. I think that'd be terrible. Why would you want to go back to what you were? You got to go forward, right? So I kind of view resiliency a bit like a muscle to work out. So if you go to the gym, you do bicep curls or whatever, and you know that your arms are going to hurt the next day because of what you're doing, and you accept it and you still go. And I remember back in the day when I did a lot of sports and I played volleyball, basketball, rugby. And I remember some workouts, especially when we're doing more competitive teams, where we'd show up and we knew that that workout, probably one or two people were going to puke from it. We weren't going to be walking well the next day. And the point of it was to find your breaking point. Because once you know your breaking point, or you know, not necessarily breaking point, but that point where you can't push harder, it becomes easier and easier for a sports team to do what they call peak. You come right close to that edge and you can perform at that because you have comfort in it and you know your edge. And I think resiliency is very similar to that, is you need to push yourself a few times and understand how far can you push yourself and keep going and still recover the next day for the next workout and not, you know, or as my dad used to say when we were kids, are you hurt or are you injured? And knowing the difference is big because you need to recover from an injury, but you can get up and keep doing stuff if you're hurt a little bit, you know?
Absolutely. So how do you think you've learned to be resilient in your career, and how do you think your own resiliency has shaped your career?
You know, I don't know if I learned to be resilient. I think it's, sorry, that's a tough answer. As soon as I said that, I thought about some of the quotes and readings I've done about leadership. And some people believe leaders are born and some believe leaders are developed. And I really believe leadership is a developed trait. Some people might have more ambition for it. Some people might have more desire for it and work harder towards it. I think resiliency is similar, where it's definitely a learned trait. Whether I learned it when I was 2 years old or just have a, you know, more of a desire to learn and push forward, I don't know. The whole nature versus nurture. It's not something I personally ever sat down and like, oh, I'm going to work on resiliency today. It's just giving up has never been an option to me. It's changing course, sure. But if you really believe in what you want to do or what you want to achieve, then why would you stop? And so, yeah, you can, you know, get a little bruised up here and there, but it's not going to stop you. You might change your course. You might find some ways to avoid those things that bruise you up. But I don't know, maybe part of it's just finding humor in it and surrounding yourself with people who also get it. I had a really tough day last week and like with business, and I felt like quitting. And I called a couple different people, and one person listened, which was great. One person suggested she goes, well, just quit. You can go be self-employed. It'll be so much easier. You don't have to worry about staff. And then I called one of my brothers and he said, oh, that's happened to me 3 times. We'll get through it. Here's what's and talking to somebody else who's been through it. You know, if all my friends said, oh, just quit, it'll be so much easier. I mean, that person was well-intentioned, but they sure weren't building up my resiliency. The people who said, I've been through it, you're going to be okay too. It makes it feel safer to get through that kind of journey. So I think pick who you spend your time around. And I mean, of course, we can't all choose our family or anything like that, but choose who you talk to about those resiliency bits, who you turn to for help.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely excellent advice, and it's really admirable for sure.
It's maybe a little bit, actually, come to think of it, it's kind of like getting a gym buddy or a diet buddy or whatever. If you're going to make a goal that you're going to work to something, share it with somebody else and then have some accountability in it, that they know this is something that matters to you.
Yeah, and then you're not in it alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I know earlier you mentioned the award that you won this year. Congratulations.
Thanks.
So how would you define success? Do you feel like you have succeeded? And maybe when did you feel like you had achieved success in your journey?
I feel for me, success is a moving target. There's, I wish I could remember who the quote's by, but, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's something about, it's like an old philosopher, and that nobody can ever truly be happy, because in the instant you realize you're happy, that changes what happiness is. And I think success is a little bit that way too, because as soon as you achieve something, you realize, hey, that's not just a dream, I can do that. And so you get the next benchmark.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
you just keep springboarding. So one of the things that I actually work on consciously is celebrating successes more, but often it's little successes. So I have a group of friends that every Friday we have a group text and we do what we call as weekly wins. And sometimes the win is, hey, I landed a $2 million contract, fantastic. Some days it's, my dog's awesome. That's my win for the week. And, sometimes you got to celebrate the little things, the big things, but recognizing them, I think, really matters on a continuous basis. Otherwise, you don't get those check-in points. And we rarely share even our small personal successes with others. Maybe one friend or something like that, a significant other, but because we don't share those, others can't share in our journey. And then you also lack reference point of how far you've come, because it's kind of like having a shared experience with others. So get a group of friends to talk about those things. I don't know if I consider myself, I don't know. It depends on someone's definition of success. I have a lot of fun in what I'm doing. I enjoy what I'm doing. I feel fortunate to be able to do that. So I guess that is successful, but really depends.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as long as you're having a good time and enjoying yourself and focusing on all the positive things, I think that's definitely something to strive to achieve.
Well, I would say I feel I've had incremental successes,
Mhm.
but it really, like, my goal isn't just to start a business or to publish a paper about treating oil sands water. My goal is to completely change the way that water treatment is approached, the way that we look at our resources sector, the way that we approach environmental sustainability. I'm also trying to really modernize the way that the consulting sector works so that it can be more sustainable for the people. And then I've got like a little pet project on the side where, as a biogeochemist, I'm always thinking about ways to colonize Mars. So, I haven't achieved these things yet. So am I successful? I don't, it depends what your goal is, right? But
Yeah,
if you
for
don't have
sure.
a big crazy goal to work towards, you don't know what's on the horizon. You don't know how to steer yourself. So I like having huge, crazy goals like that.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe in a little bit of a different direction. What does failure mean to you?
Not trying,
Yeah,
giving up. And don't confuse giving up with changing direction. It's totally okay to change what is important to you, what your priorities are in life, but it should be conscious. Don't just give up.
yeah, absolutely. Um, so what lessons has the pandemic taught you?
Oh, that people are weird. I already knew that though. I think the pandemic has brought out almost an extreme, people's personalities have really come out more extreme than before, I think. Um, People who would rather wait to be told, here's what's happening next, you can really see them waiting. People who are afraid of change, you can see them waiting. You can see these discussions people having saying, when we return to normal, when the pandemic's done, all these make-believe things that aren't going to happen. I mean, with a background in microbiology, and I used to be a teaching assistant in virology, I mean, anyone in the medical field with a microbiology background knows that it's gone endemic and it's going to be around forever. Now, how we react to it being around forever and how we control it and everything is a different thing. But I find it very interesting through the pandemic that people aren't, or the general narrative isn't about planning for the future. It's about regressing back to where we were before. And I find that is, especially leadership roles are very much doing that. Not about here's where we're going despite everything. It's how do we get back to before? And that has been an eye opener to me to see that that crutch of not wanting to change, not wanting to advance or progress.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think that's something important to keep in mind, moving forward. And like you mentioned earlier with resiliency and being elastic and able to snap back, maybe that's not always what you want.
You might want to shoot the elastic forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. So how do you think you're contributing to being what the world needs?
Oh gosh, that's a big question.
Yeah,
Um,
lots of big questions for you.
yeah, and as you've seen, I'm happy, like not all my answers are very always what is common out there. I think one of the biggest things I do is I question a lot of things, and I try as much as possible. I think one of the um, advantages that I have as a scientist is I actually do view a lot of different possibilities um, and weigh the evidence and try to go from that rather than a position of what do I gain from this? What's my advantage? And so I've been having a lot of conversations with different decision makers about not just about policy, about, future of education, about our economy, where's environmental science is going, and resources and everything. And being able to weigh in an unbiased way, or it's can't say unbiased, we all have biases, but attempting to recognize my biases and teaching others in decision-making roles how to recognize biases as a scientist in our day-to-day lives. That's one thing I'm really trying to do to make a change out there. That's just personally, I mean, work-wise, the technologies and things that the teams I've built have developed are getting used globally. Even right now, like we've got work in Suriname, Peru, Dominican Republic, across Canada. Previously, I've worked in Kyrgyzstan, all across the US. So I feel like the things that we're doing or that I've initiated and put in motion are having an impact. And just want more, bigger impact.
Yeah. No, and I know you said that maybe your answers aren't very common, but I don't think that makes them less valuable. If anything, I think it makes it more valuable for sure.
I think sometimes I say the things that other people maybe are thinking, but
Mhm.
don't quite say.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. All right. So this is the final question that I've got written down for you. What advice do you have for somebody wanting to start their own business?
Well, to start your own business, just do it. If I had known what I know now when I started my first business, I never would have done it. And I totally would have missed out because, it's one of those things. I'll give an analogy is 2019, I took a trip to France for my brother's wedding. And if somebody had told me how the entire trip was going to turn out, I would have been like, no, I'm going to just stay home. But, that's not my idea of a fun trip. Like I ended up having to be like the soccer mom driving the minivan through Paris. Okay. Not what I had planned for the trip, but it was a fantastic, amazing trip. And I gained so many skills from all the obstacles that we encountered. And overall, I think everyone had an amazing trip, amazing time at the wedding. Great. But if you just spelled out what was going to happen, I'd be like, don't think I want to do that, And so that's kind of, I think, how a lot of business owners are. Obviously, I love it. I've gone back for another one. So I think sometimes it just gets really overcomplicated when I see all these like entrepreneur groups and learn this from this group and take this course on this. Somebody's just got to do it. A lot of entrepreneurs will say by the time you get your business plan made, everything has changed and you've just wasted all those hours. I've never had a formal business plan. I have a plan, not formalized though, because if you actually want to be high growth, you're changing that plan faster than you can make it. And so I think there's a big difference between what is generally in textbooks and taught and what happens in reality with startups. So yeah, if you want to start a business, just start. That's my youngest brother has said this to me, and it's so true. It's you can't steer a bike that's not moving.
Yeah.
So get it moving. You can always change course. You can always add to it. You can always decide to go faster or slower, but at least start it.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's definitely easier to work with something that you've already got. I think starting is definitely the hardest point, but yeah.
Well, I think a lot of people are, just as something I've kind of seen, or, you know, is a lot of people are afraid to start because if you start, you have the possibility of failing.
Mhm.
If you never start it, you've never failed. Well, I think that's 100% failure.
Yeah.
So I think it's the way that you view it. I don't know anybody who's started a business and I know lots of people have started a business and it didn't work out, that business.
Mhm.
I don't know anybody who like looks down on them for it.
Yeah,
You know, it's like, hey, you tried. That's cool.
absolutely. It's admirable to have done something. It's still an achievement to have tried.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Well, yeah, so that's it for our questions. Thank you so much. I think we'll open it up for some audience Q&A now. You can add your questions to the Q&A and I can view them and read them. Yeah.
Cool.
All right. So there is one question. So this is from Leah. What's one thing you're really proud of yourself for accomplishing?
Ooh. I don't know. I could tell you about the funniest failures I've had and face plants. Something for accomplishing. I used to be terrified of public speaking. Got over that.
Yeah.
I enjoy it now. So I think, you know, recognizing some things that you're afraid of or that are challenging to you and working at overcoming them. I'm also really proud that like, I just keep going. I'm sorry, it's not a specific thing, but some days that's like, when I had that hard day last week, my brother said to me too, one of the things, he said, look, no matter how awful today is, tomorrow's still going to happen. So it's your choice if you're going to let tomorrow be crappy too, or are you going to do something about it? And sometimes just dealing with the present and dealing with the next day and keep on going, that is the biggest accomplishment of anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So next question. This is from Chrisane. I hope I said your name right. I'm sorry if I didn't. How did you figure out what you wanted to do?
I still don't know what I want to do. Growing up, when people would ask, what do you want to do when you grow up? The thought of picking one thing was terrifying. My standard answer was that, and I would still like to do this, this would be a good job. The person who names colors. Somebody does it. And it would be a great job. And because every season you can rename this color blue a new color, right?
Totally.
But I love entrepreneurship because I can do so many things. And I fell into it. I didn't want, like, I never went through school thinking I'm going to start a business. It's because there was no jobs out there when I started. I had a job with the government for a year. It really wasn't a good fit. They let me go. And I was like, what the heck am I going to do? Even now, there's a big disjoint between the quantity of science and especially environmental science grads that are getting produced by universities and the quantity of jobs out there. And that's something we published in the State of the Nation on Science, Technology, and Innovation back in, well, it's a 2014 address, but it was published in 2016. And that's still an ongoing challenge, this mismatch between the quantity of jobs and what is getting produced by universities. I don't just mean U of S, I mean across Canada. And a lot of people are going to have to get jobs in areas that they didn't study for and be flexible. And when I got let go from my government job back in 2009, I just did soul searching. It was such a bad situation that I didn't even want to be a scientist anymore. So I started looking what other things could I do with my skills. And that's when I realized it's not science I enjoy that much. It's problem solving, it's troubleshooting, it's inventing, and you can do that in so many places. I should also mention, if my timelines aren't making sense to people, it's because I didn't graduate my PhD till 2009, like on paper, but I started doing 2 postdocs in 2008. So I kind of had like a weird blend there and then started working in 2009 officially.
Cool. I might just skip a couple questions because a question just came in that's related to this.
Yep.
This is from Eileen. So she says this is where she struggles with what she wants to do. wants to know, how do you stop? How do you start? You can't go to school forever. How do you focus?
Well, first thing, get a job. Okay. I recommend, and there's not as many startups around Saskatchewan, but if possible, get into a small group, get into, well, actually, sorry, it depends on the person. Okay. You might be more somebody that would do better in government or do better in a large company. But if you don't quite know what you want to do yet, small companies and startup companies, you're going to wear 100 hats. And that way you get exposure. Like if you stay at a startup company for 3 months, that's going to give you the experience of about 3 to 5 years at a large company, because you're going to get exposed to so many things. You're going to get pushed every day. And it's tough. Okay. It's really tough, but there's a reward for it, both usually in a startup financially long-term, but also in your growth. So try to find things that expose you to all sorts of different things. Do 100 things at once, meaning like, don't just go to school, volunteer. I worked at coffee shops. I waitressed at the Sutherland Bar. I sold shoes. I shingled roofs. You know, I was the lab dishwasher. That's how I got into lab work, lab dishwashing and labeling. Get all kinds of experience and you'll start to understand what you do and don't like. And you'll also appreciate all those other jobs in the future.
Definitely. I think that's excellent advice. Being exposed to a lot of different things teaches you a lot in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
So this is from Jessica. How did you secure money for your business?
My first business, I started off, I had $30,000 in savings with my he's now ex-husband. And we put that into it. I had signed a contract for nearly $500,000 already with a potential client, but I needed money to get up and going. So I managed to start up an entire lab on $30,000. I never thought that would be possible. But I got fortunate in a few ways. That was 2010, and Obama had just signed some bill making it so that US company, it was like the whole Buy America thing. And so there was a couple of companies that were located in the NRC building that had to close down their Canadian operations and move back to the US. And so I bought their entire lab for about 10 cents on the dollar because they weren't able to bring it back across the border. What I realize now is those things are happening way more often than I realized. There's actually auctions for used lab equipment and you can buy big lots of them. You just have to go to Alberta or Ontario. But yeah, within 2-3 months, I had that paid back. And that was my first business. And I never ended up going back and never took out another loan, nothing. And we just bootstrapped. So I just kept reinvesting any bits I made. A lot of it would go into research. So, you know, if we had about a 20-25% profit margin, I put most of that into R&D and business growth and technology development. So by the end, we're about a $3 million a year revenue. With Maven, I've taken the proceeds from the sale of Contango, and the information on that's online. So sold that for a few $1 million, and I've taken part of that to build out my new things.
Yeah, wow.
Interestingly, my business plan is not aggressive enough for a venture capital firm. Also, I don't want to give up a lot of equity, but it's too aggressive for any bank, which is interesting because I know a lot of men who've gotten approved by banks with much more aggressive and much less experience. But yeah, so I did get a loan from Women Entrepreneurs of Saskatchewan, WESC. I think they'll go up to about 150,000, which is great for most businesses. That's about our monthly burn rate. So it's interesting to think about, like, depending on the style of your business and what you want to achieve with your business, how much money do you really need to grow it? And both my businesses were in this kind of sector, just totally different growth plans.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe more on that. What's it like being a woman in a male-dominated industry where you're seeing men get opportunities that you're maybe denied?
You know, I find it interesting. I mean, the sciences, in mining, in all these, the government that I've been in, because I've also been government advisor, so all these things. I've seen it kind of double-edged. I've actually in some situations, I don't even know what to call it, like it's still sexism, but almost reverse sexism, where I've benefited from it.
Okay.
Where, because there's, affirmative action hiring, there's, oh, we need to fill our quota for women on this board, and so there's almost more opportunities on some levels, which kind of bothers me. On the other side, there's people that are jerks. And I realized a lot of these people that are jerks to women, they're also jerks to men, or they're just jerks in general. And it's not you. And I'd say it's a lot different now than it was even a decade ago, before the Me Too movement, before we could speak up about these things. Like I was harassed at the government job I was in, and I went to my my vice president eventually, because both one of my colleagues and my direct manager were involved in sexism, ageism, just not a good place. And my VP, who was also a man, said, I know those guys, they wouldn't do that.
Oh dear.
And it wasn't until I brought it up in front, like it happened in front of that VP, and I looked at it and I said, you guys, I would really appreciate if you'd all not refer to me as kiddo, not saying these kinds of things, not, and I had a PhD by then, they didn't have to call me kiddo. Not in front of clients for sure. And I just saw that VP, like the shock in his eyes, because he didn't recognize that this was going on. Yeah. And I think a lot of people were blind to it, not intentionally involved, but complicit by just being ignorant. And I think that's changed a lot over the past decade for sure. I think I've also just got a thick skin on a lot of things too, because like when I worked in Kyrgyzstan, I wasn't going to change their whole culture. It is what it is, you know? And so you learn to exist within different things too. One of the, there's this one time I was advising, I was originally appointed by the Harper government, but then advised the Trudeau government for a while. And I remember they brought forward this thing about women entrepreneurship, female scientists. And they had this whole thing, and it was this big panel I was a part of. And came my turn, and you could tell they were excited. They thought that they were going to like just wow me, that, ooh, they're supporting me. And I said, it's segregation. We don't need more women scientists. We don't need more female entrepreneurs. By adding that token title, you've differentiated us. You've marginalized. What we need more is more diversity in science, more diversity in entrepreneurship. And we need programs that grow that, not programs that segregate. That's my personal opinion. I'd consider myself quite the feminist, but the approach is sometimes different that people take.
Yeah, for sure. Everybody's got different ideas of what they want to see. So, all right. So we have 3 questions left. Let's see if we can hammer through them.
Sure.
In the time we've got left. So who do you look up to as mentors or role models?
I don't have like one specific one. I look up to so many different people for many different reasons. So this might sound cheesy, but like, I don't want to be like any one person. I want to be the best parts of all these different people. So, I've got one friend who has like a huge amount of empathy, and I admire that in her. I have another friend who is extremely healthy, and I admire that about her habits. Overall, I think the people I probably end up, I guess, I don't want this to go on record, but I guess it's going to, is I look up to my brothers a lot. I have 3 brothers. They're all also entrepreneurs. 2 of them are tech guys. One of them is, I went through business. I guess, 2 of them went through arts and science. And the other one went through college, what's it called, Edward School. Yeah. And they're, I always joke, whatever I'm doing, they're trying to do like 100 times whatever I'm doing. So I enjoy, I look up to them in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. And at the same time, you're kind of setting a goal for them to try and meet, hey?
We tease each other a lot, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So what advice can you offer to recent graduates in environmental science programs if there are limited job opportunities? I know we kind of touched on this earlier.
Yeah. So first off, get experience. You might say, well, how do I get experience with no jobs? Volunteer, intern, get other jobs that might have some marginal relationship to it. If you have to, even work for free. And I've seen that it's more at the large engineering firms, whereas if you come in and offer, hey, I will work for free for 3 months, you're going to get contacts. At least if you do a good job, first off, they're going to hire you on the spot after that. And second of all, you're going to get to know people, and that's how you're going to end up getting the jobs.
For sure.
Go to places like Eco Canada and apply for the internships, apply for the co-ops. You don't need to have an employer to apply for that. The funding is attached to you. So then you can apply to those positions that you're looking for and say, look, I come with this funding of $10,000. So all of a sudden you've shown that you have initiative, that you understand money, that you are willing to put in some work, and that you're going to cost them less than anyone else. Get a completely kick-ass cover letter. It probably matters as much or more than your CV, because you have to think of, you're coming out of a bachelor's degree or similar with the exact same credentials of everybody else. So how do you differentiate yourself? Well, the first is the other experiences you had, the other jobs you've had. I love finding people who have held 1 or 2 jobs along with going to school. It shows they can multitask. People who have maybe done a sport or like a very, very high level musical training or art, something along with going to school, because it shows that they're actually able to manage conflicting workloads. But your cover letter, your cover letter shouldn't list your classes. Your cover letter shouldn't regurgitate your resume. Your cover letter should explain, why do you want that job with that company specifically? And how will you work with that company? How are you going to work your butt off for them and try to grow in that area?
For sure.
That wording might not be the best, work your butt off for them. It's actually for you. Because
Yeah.
the harder you're going to get out of it what you put into it.
Yeah.
And we think about that with our careers is, I'll go on a tiny tangent here if it's not taking too much time. I don't have a clock in front of me, but a lot of people talk about work-life balance. And most people that I talk with who are entrepreneurs and business owners, we just call BS on it. It's total BS. And yeah, if you want to be mediocre, follow what they say. If you want to be exceptional at something, find your own balance. We don't tell NHL players to play less hockey. We don't make fun of them, or like there's shaming that happens online for working too much. Well, if an NHL player happens to follow a diet for their hockey or go to curfew, you wouldn't shame them for that. That's part of their life, and that's their balance. And you can extend the same thing to musicians and artists, Ironman triathletes. They've found a passion, something they're really good at, and they've incorporated that as their life. And so you don't try to minimize something that brings you joy and passion and that you grow in and that challenges you. And so if you aren't feeling that way about, if you're starting a business, it hurts all the time. The same way that I'm sure NHL players hurt when they have their training seasons and everything too. But if you aren't enjoying it, you probably need to find something else.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice for sure. You know, your work-life balance is what works for you. Yeah. Okay, so our last question, and I think it's a good one to end on. How do you de-stress, and do you have tips for decompressing?
Oh, sorry, it made me, this is several years ago, okay? My older brother they were just scaling up a business, and my nephew was probably about 6 or 7. He's 13 now, so this is a while ago. He came home with a list, like, for Father's Day, what does dad like to do? You know, what does dad do for fun? What does dad do for, and each one was work. What does dad do for fun? Work. What does dad do for stress? Works more. And, so to de-stress, I kind of joke, but I have a dog and a cat. I enjoy time with them. The dog comes to the office with me. I have a lot of plants. You can see a few here, but like I've probably got 50 or some orchids that I enjoy watering. Some friends of teas that they can tell if I'm repotting plants, that's my de-stressing. But overall, it de-stresses me to get something done. I feel a weight off my shoulders, even if I, like, let's say that my brain is not working anymore on financial projections, I'm going to work on web content, or I'm going to work on the new HR strategy, or something that overall gets me closer to my end goal, as long as it gives me a change. Maybe I'm going to go for a long walk, but listen to a podcast that addresses some aspect that I've been wanting to grow in or something. So for me, the big thing about de-stressing is definitely about moving towards a target. I also like to cook. It used to be travel for me. I loved traveling, and I'd often combine it with my work, but that's not so possible now. So was there a second part to that? I feel I missed a part, but I probably went over time also.
No, I think you did answer it, and that was awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for talking with me. This was really fun.
Yeah, I've got a piano sitting here beside me, and sometimes, like, I've gone through, I haven't played it for about 6 months, and then sometimes I'll be playing it every night. I think it depends what aspects are stressing me, and recognizing different stressors need to be addressed in different ways.
Yeah, totally.
All right, well, I'm going to pop in here. Thank you so much, Monique and Bree, today for giving us that great conversation, and to our audience members. We had so many great questions from you all. Thank you. I'm so excited to see how engaged everyone was and the great questions that we got. And Monique, your answers were just phenomenal. I was taking notes as I was going. So thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom with us. We do have a little bit of a gift for you, just a little USask travel mug for you that I'll drop off for you later this week. And Bree, we do have a water bottle, a USask water bottle for you for moderating for us today. So thank you everybody so much for making it out today. We did run a little bit over time, so thanks for sticking it out with us, and we really appreciate it. And we will be in touch soon. Remember to sign up for our next and final shift webinar, LinkedIn and networking in the pandemic, which is a week from today. Thank you again so much, Dr. Samara, for being here today. Have a great day.
Thanks for all the questions.
Bye.